Hello, this is Wayne Barbosa, your host at the Parting Ways Project. Today is 11/1/2012. It's 11:28 a.m. The following video was taken today over the skies of Providence, Rhode Island, the South Coast, just shortly after the so-called Hurracane Sandy. Alright, so this is important that people understand that this thing's going on, and I think if you watch this video, you'll understand why the importance that you pay attention to the Parting Ways Project. The Parting Ways Project is not talk, and it's a remedy for things that are unseen that will soon be seen through this shift that we're going through. God bless. Everything's going to be fine. Just stay righteous.
We stop speaking.
The recent discovery within the tower of astronomical alignments, which Templars used, suggests it was also a medieval calendar for calculating seasonal cycles and times of the year.
on what is known as an X radar. And for me, I believe that this barium...
Natural resources. And what happens is that we've got these persistent jet contrails which are now showing up, and NASA has admitted that they make man-made clouds, which change the climate. So we know that there has to be some experiments going on in changing our climate, and this is one of them, these persistent contrails. And when they change our climate, they can raise temperature at night, they can lower temperature during the day, they can keep us covered over with man-made clouds, cirrus clouds, white haze, any number of different types of clouds, and these change our weather, and they impact agriculture in a very negative way. So I think that we're under a lot of different types of experiments, and this is just one of them. In addition, besides what the jets are doing, we have atmospheric heating and testing programs which can also negatively impact our weather. And that's another issue that is really awful for us, is the impact of these programs and the chemicals that they use in these programs. Some of the NASA programs, the CRES and the night clouds that they create by putting up canisters at different heights in the atmosphere, superheating them, and they put chemicals in like barium. They put aluminum in. They put strontium.
A lot of people don't know this, and I want to throw this out because I seem to be one of the few people discussing this, but barium is a well-known used tracking device that they use on Al-Qaeda or other terrorist organizations. They will feed barium to them, and we show up on what is known as an X radar. And for me, I believe that this barium, one of the main things that they would be using it for is in a martial law type scenario, we will all show up on this X radar. Now the X radar was being shipped from here in Texas. It was sent down through the Gulf on an oil rig and had to make the whole circuit around South America in order to get up to Alaska, and I found it very interesting that it was going right up there near the HAARP facility, but the barium factor hasn't been covered very much. But barium also causes some very ill effects. Do you know of these?
Yes, it does have, yes, it causes hypertension. There's a whole listing on the EPA website for barium. All you have to do is go to the EPA website, go into the chemical section, and what you will find is a whole listing of all the chemicals that water districts across the United States are supposed to test for, and it gives the levels that are allowable in water, and it gives listings on the health effects for aluminum, barium, strontium is also another one that they're using, lithium is another chemical that's being used in these atmospheric testing. I can speak to the atmospheric testing programs and these heating programs because I know more about them than some of the other issues, and I have the government documents to back up what I'm talking about on these issues. So I hope that people will research this. The NASA press kit, CRRES for 1990 is a good one because it explains what chemicals and actually how they do the process. And that's on the internet. People can look it up. NASA has another program called Night Clouds, TMA testing, trimethyl aluminum testing. So these are things that I can talk about, and once they put these chemicals up into the atmosphere and do their tests, then part of what comes down, these chemicals will come down and start to contaminate food supplies, soils. They will impact trees negatively, water supplies. Your cattle are going to eat them. Grasses will be impacted with these chemicals. And one of the things that aluminum, as an example, does is it harms trees. So if you're seeing unusual tree deaths where your trees look like they're dying or they look like they're kind of strangling to death, they're not healthy because they don't have enough water, part of that problem is that when you have acid rain, which our rain is becoming more acidic, and you add aluminum to the soil, the root systems of trees will uptake this aluminum, and when they do, what it does is it causes the trees to be strangled. They don't get the nutrients they need, and they don't get the water. And so a lot of times when they talk about we're in a drought here in Northern California, and that's why our trees don't look good, they're not taking into consideration the amount of aluminum that we're getting from some of these programs, and that the trees, we searched records 100 years back, found that there was no significant drought here, but the trees were dying, and they looked like they were dying of drought. But we believe fully that aluminum is a big cause here of why the trees don't look so good. So this could be happening in many areas across the United States, because we're seeing tree impact, even in Arizona with the cactus. We're seeing it in different parts of the United States where people are calling in and letting us know that tree health is declining as well.
Well, one story I'd like to share with you, when I lived in Kansas City back in the mid-90s, mid to late 90s, and this was a news story that got very little airplay. Actually, they only gave it about 2 minutes after, and then gave about a 10-minute clip on the dangers of the squirrel. But in this news clip in Kansas City, thousands of birds dropped dead over Kansas City and were lying dead and flopping in the park. And the news came out there, and they showed a bunch of people going, oh yeah, this is really disgusting, all these dead birds. Then they had their specialist come on and say, well, I don't really know what it is, it might be poisoning. But this just dropped right like a bomb and just floated right out like a feather. Here were thousands of birds dropping dead in Kansas City, and no one questioning why.
They did the same thing here in one of the biggest lakes in California, in Lake County. All of a sudden, Fish and Game was pulling out thousands of dead birds who were just flying along, and then all of a sudden dropped from the sky, still warm. They just dropped straight down and fell into the lake. And I'll tell you, they didn't want to talk about that issue either. They pulled them out of the lake, still warm, as fast as they could, and disposed of them immediately. But they couldn't tell me that it was bird flu that would knock whole, in other words, thousands of birds out of the sky at one time. This was in the some of the local newspapers here in Lake County. So what I want you to know is this is not uncommon, but it's not being talked about as to what's causing this or why.
You're the first person to tell me another story about that. I hadn't heard anyone else. I'm so glad. Well, I'm not glad that it's happening, but I'm glad to hear that you are aware of this.
Yes, and we hear other stories similar. One of the persons that's really an expert on this, and also is Bridget Conroy. She's in Phoenix, Arizona, and her telephone number is